I apologize for the mix-up this morning. Oh, there you go.
Sorry.
Excellent. No worries. So it was just one of those people had it reserved and they didn't know we had it reserved kind of deals, and that's just going to happen sometimes. I would like to go over the rules of the road one time because there's quite a few new faces out there. Number one is we're recording, and I actually remembered to turn it on this time before everything started. So if folks in the committee could kind of speak up a little bit, I kind of centrally located the recorder right there. And the purpose of this committee is to put together a policy that has a large community base, and then the idea is we then pass that policy to the Board of Trustees, and the Board of Trustees looks at that policy, and then if they agree, it gets passed. This is not a policy that we are guaranteeing going to pass in total once we're done with our part of it. Does that kind of make sense to folks? Okay. We are only recommending. We are not writing a policy. The first rule is if this is a very heated issue, if it does become heated, first of all, the folks that work in this building, in the licensing and in Veterans Affairs is right behind this door and all that kind of stuff. So there are other people that work in this building, so please keep your voices down and your comments civil, because there have been complaints before. I never get younger every morning, I always go out to meetings. We are here to address the public issues in an open and respectful way. As per the direction of this committee, the people that are speaking are the committee members. They are the representatives for the community. This is an opportunity for you guys to see public government in action. It's not an opportunity to comment, okay? And our collection policy will follow all applicable state and federal laws and codes. And that was all I had. Did you want to start us out with a comment?
Yes, please.
All right.
I would like to remind everybody that the library operates under state and federal laws. And we can't just do whatever we wish. Sometimes we can. And we also hire a director and staff to enforce the law. And at present time, there are no books in the library that are against the law. I just want to remind everybody, and thank you all for coming and showing an interest in what we're doing today and other days. So I just wanted to remind everybody that this is a community affair, and we represent the community. Although sometimes the board doesn't seem to, but we do. So thank you all for coming. That's all I have to say today.
All right, and just for clarification, my name's Lee Colson. I'm Zone 5 trustee. Wendy McClintock is Zone 2. 2. And then if you could we'll just quick go around and introduce yourself to
Mary Esther Wilson, I live in Zone 5.
Murray Hackett, Mohegan Springs. Doug Nowak, I live in Zone 1.
Laura Anderson, Paradise Valley.
Charlene Wells, Mulligan.
All right, so the first first thing we kind of have to go through is, I have a stack of paper, which I optimistically placed in front of each of the 6 other committee members. And hopefully, this will all make sense as we move through it. We got to do a couple of procedural kind of things, and then we will get right into the policy. Number one is we have to, has everybody, the top of your stack is correct? It should show today's meeting, December 7th, 2022, at the Armory. And I would look for a motion to approve the agenda as it's written.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda as written.
Second.
Okay.
Actually, didn't we already approve the second meeting? November 2nd meeting? Minutes?
No.
It's just the agenda, we're just approving the
I know,
agenda. Well,
We couldn't approve the meetings, or the minutes, because last meeting, I didn't write it on the agenda like I was supposed
okay,
to.
okay.
So, the
But we
way
did
this,
vote on it once already. Okay.
the way this works is if it doesn't appear on the agenda, I can't do it, which kind of explains the last item on ours, which is forwarding the policy to the board. I don't necessarily think we're gonna get to that point, but if it's not on there, we can always table it to the next meeting, but we can't add it. So
Thank you for
that's,
clarifying that.
yes, it turns out there's a way to do this. So, having a motion to approve the agenda and having it seconded, can we just go around the table and approve the agenda?
Aye.
Okay, and aye. Okay, and then the next thing in your great big stack of stuff would be the minutes from Wednesday, November 2nd, which would be our first meeting. Did everybody get a chance to read the minutes? First of all, has everybody gotten the emails that I've been sending? So the system is working and so you have the edits and the minutes and all that kind of stuff.
I'm receiving them,
Okay. So, hopefully you guys had a chance to go through the minutes and, first of all, are there any corrections to Wednesday the 2nd's minutes as shown here?
So that's the same thing as Wednesday night, November?
Nope, Wednesday 9 is completely different.
Okay.
Wednesday 2nd is the one page,
Got it.
two-sided.
Is there a motion?
Is that what you mean?
I wasn't there, so I can't.
I motion that we approve this,
Okay,
Wednesday,
Second.
November 2nd.
anybody want a second?
Second.
Okay. And then, if we could just approve?
Aye.
Doug? Okay.
Aye.
Wendy, do you approve? Okay. All right. Cool. Okay, so then, the next thing in your stack of stuff should be the, 9 November minutes.
That's an interesting format.
Very detailed.
Yes. I move that we approve the minutes to the Wednesday, November 9th meeting.
I second it.
Okay, and then do we have agreement?
Aye.
So, is there a way, is it clear enough, or would you like them different? Doesn't-
It was good, I just wondered how much time it took you.
Yeah.
Honestly, I was thinking it was gonna take me forever, but, it turned out I got it done in less time than the recording was, so I was pretty happy about that.
Oh,
Okay, yeah,
No, it's good. And then it brings back.
It
Right,
did.
yeah.
Okay,
You hit the bullet.
Yeah.
okay, so I can continue to do that?
Thank you.
Yes. So the next three clumps of paper, I guess I would describe mine, are the first clump is the edits that we've done so far in our policy, so at the last meeting. And I guess there is no real, my real question is, should we just set this aside? Do we want to go through this a little bit and make sure that it kind of looks like everybody expected it somewhat to? Or do we want to go on and start at 20 and keep moving ahead?
I would like to go on where we left off so that we have an opportunity to do all of it at the same time and then be able to comment on it later.
Okay.
If you have another meeting, I mean, if we're planning on having another meeting, I would prefer to do it so that I can have some time to really look at it.
Okay. So then, I guess I would ask for clarification's sake, is there anything that really stands out that you would like to change in this before we move past it?
Can you remind me where we left off?
So I didn't put the paragraphs in this one. I left it in the.
Was
It was line item 24.
20. I can't remember, does anybody have exactly what that was?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Would you like?
So you want-
Well, I just gotta dig it out, I know I have it here. Hope I have, yes, I have it here.
Yeah, 6.6.
Yeah, it's on page 3, halfway down of the revised copy.
Yes, just like
Yeah,
it's
this
on.
is what you-
So, yeah, the numbered one.
We're in 6.5.
Yes, 6.5, right
Right, just the end, the last two paragraphs.
The last two paragraphs is 6.5, and that's basically the only change I put into 6.5 was the appendix. Nope, sorry, the appendix was in, that was in
On
6.4,
14.
sorry. So there was very limited changes in 6.5.
Yeah, I had also tabled a section that I would like to go back to today, since I tabled it today, and make sure that we do that.
So,
It's, yeah, I don't think it would take very long, but.
Not related to it, but you had implied that we might have public access comment. Do you need a motion for that, or, before you've done it at the beginning of the meeting, I would suggest that it be at the end of the meeting, so they can actually comment on, and so it would have to be limited to a few people if we stop a few minutes early, you know, like 5 minutes early before we adjourn, and let a few people speak from the audience, or
Yeah, I second that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
at meetings that I had, where you speak first, it's sort of, you're not discussing what we go over, you're discussing the past meeting. So, I mean, do you want to have public comment, or?
So I guess the reason I was reluctant to have public comment is kind of twofold. Number one, when we do this as a board, there will be an opportunity for public comment. And number two is the process of getting this done needs to just be done.
Okay.
So then it can be commented on.
Okay, you
But
had commented
what
on.
we can do is at the end of the meeting, we can stop and we can vote. If people want to have public comments at the meeting, I actually have to write it on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
So what I can do is, that when we get done with the meeting, we can vote and see if people want public comments for the last 15 minutes.
Well, 10 minutes, I think, would be adequate, I mean, for,
Kind of in my experience, if you want to have about 3 or 4 people talk,
Okay.
it's going to take 15 minutes,
Okay.
which, you know, that's a reasonable number
Yeah.
of folks to talk.
okay. So-
But officially, according to the rules, we can't have comment unless, again, it has to be on the agenda.
Okay, so,
Or would it be better served at a board meeting?
Well, and that was kind of the thought as to why we weren't allowing comment, is we are not the final arbiter, and to me, that would be the place for public comment, is when the board gets together and makes this final decision.
Is it really
Does it
gonna
seem-
hurt anything, Lee, for a few people to give us some feedback on what we're doing at the end of the meeting?
After we adjourn, I mean, is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, at the end of the meeting, like what I think he's.
So today, that's not gonna work at all, because I actually have commitments at noon, so
And, you know,
when noon is up, it's like we gotta empty the room and stack the chairs, and I gotta get out of it. It's kind of the way it works today. But if, again, we can talk about this and we can add it to the agenda for next meeting.
Yeah, why don't we do that?
Okay.
So, okay, sorry, I just,
No,
it was
no.
commented on last meeting, and I.
Well, and honestly, I'm kind of learning the process, so I'm not exactly sure how everything works, but hopefully we're on this way.
Well, I feel that they would feel more useful if they had an opportunity to speak.
And we can do that. We can definitely vote on it for the next time.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, Mary, I'm sorry. didn't mean to
So-
interrupt you.
Oh, that's fine. I just wanted, I do want to get through the policy also, yet I wanted to make sure since I had tabled it till this meeting that I,
Okay, so you were talking about 6.4, correct? That's what you wanted to get back to.
correct. There was, when I went through and read everything that you had written, I just wanted to include community involvement and staff involvement in the process. And it's just a small little section, and I did find a good spot where it could fit in 6.5, because we had done a lot of combining of sections. And actually, it looks like 6.4 isn't even on here.
Well, 6.4 is.
We combined it, right?
Oh, did we?
Because it's not, I just barely noticed that, it's not even on the,
I have it as 6.5, selection criteria is in yellow, which means it's just reordered.
yeah.
So 6.4 would still be there under selection criteria.
Yes,
But
selection guidelines and criteria.
It would be, the first paragraph would be the yellow one, not the red one. Is that gonna make sense?
Oh, I see it, that's different than the one you emailed out, unless I'm missing a page.
I hope it's not different from the one.
I might have left the page at home.
Okay.
So,
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I had combined it onto 6.5, so if you turn to 6.5, what I'm suggesting of adding would be in the second paragraph. It starts out using selection practices that are flexible and responsive to the changing needs of the community. And I have added, staff contributes to the development of collections by engaging in open, continuous two-way communication with library patrons. And then it ends while recognizing the needs of special population groups. Does that make sense? So I took out the Boundary County Library builds and maintains collections for general public.
would you clarify, please, for me, the special, I'm sorry, how do you put that?
I'm sorry.
Special group, or the special,
Can you just say that whole thing one more time so
Yeah.
I can put it down?
Yep. Using selection practices that are flexible and responsive to the changing needs of the community. Staff contributes to the development of collections by engaging in open, continuous, two-way communication with library patrons. And then continuing on that last line, while recognizing the needs of special population groups.
that's what, would you mind defining, what are your special?
That I don't know, that actually got taken from the old policy, so if we want to discuss that, I would love to discuss
Because
what that
I
meeting
still think
is.
we need to encompass just the community.
Yeah, we can
because-
change that, that wasn't my adding, I just,
Okay, I
that
just
was
wanted-
finishing it up.
Just because clarifying, because I guess simplicity still, to me, is important.
Mhm.
Because, you know, we all have different views, you know, as a community, we all have different needs. But if you say community, that means everybody.
So
And
you
it's not
take out,
targeting-
you're saying to scratch out special population groups and add community, I am totally fine with that.
Because, I mean,
Yeah.
because we want to
Yeah.
encompass
Yeah.
everybody.
Well, it's the community that pays for this place, whether they're regular patrons or not.
Right, right,
So, yeah, I like that.
okay.
So you have to say,
So at the very end of that paragraph, it says, while recognizing the needs of and changing special population groups to the community.
Well, in even back in that sentence, I don't even know if you need, because it does say community earlier on in there.
So take it completely out, the whole thing, is what you're saying?
Because it said community.
So using selection practices that are functional and responsive to the changing needs of the community, staff contributes to the development of collections by engaging in open, continuous two-way communication with library patrons. I like it.
I mean,
I didn't want to take too much out
Well,
and
it
change
just-
that paragraph too much
Again,
on my own,
simplicity.
but,
Simplicity.
but I like it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, when I tabled it, that's the thing I really wanted to add it in there, is just the communication with the staff and the patrons. I didn't see that that was really listed in the, this section at all, so I wanted to add it.
I'm thinking it does further on somewhere.
It does have it does have a section on it, but it
wasn't.
But it wasn't included in the selection guidelines, and when I was reading through what the ALA suggested, that to me stood out that we were missing. That was the only thing that was really missing in my mind. And when I read through what was sent out, it's like, oh, well, it sounds good, except for that it's still missing, so I tried to find a place I could put it in without changing too much of what had already been done.
So can
okay,
you read again how you want it worded? Where were you
Yeah,
at?
so if you read, it's in section 6.5, the second paragraph starts with using. So it would say, using selection practices that are flexible and responsive to the changing needs of the community, staff contributes to the development of collections by engaging in open, continuous, two-way communication with library patrons. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
and then we just sink the whole rest of it.
And then the rest just stays the same. I just thought it was the easiest way to,
No, I mean, like, the whole last part of the sentence.
oh no, it's just take, well, it was,
Just
just take it all out.
Just
Yeah,
make
just
it
take out the
period.
rest of
Just
it.
taking the, recognizing the needs of special
By
population.
open, continuous two-way communications, with library patrons, period.
Yes, and then take out the Boundary County Library builds and maintains collections for the general public while recognizing the needs of special population groups. Scratch that whole section.
Copy that. So then that was your,
That was it. Yeah,
That was it.
that covers everything I was thinking in just a small little bite. I'm all for minimalism. Yeah.
yep,
Well, I'm sure you want to, solidify that, but I did want to caveat into that after she said, for purposes of simplicity. So I don't know if you need to finalize what we're talking about. And
nope, I think I got it.
Okay. Going back to 6.4, selection criteria, paragraph 5. I probably did hit on this, but we'll be clear. When I look at paragraph 5, on
So are you,
line,
I'm,
yeah,
sorry,
go ahead.
which,
I am going off of the draft you just sent us today.
Okay.
Just passed out.
okay.
But I do have the line item numbers itemized.
No, that's fine. So paragraph 5.
Yeah, 6.4, paragraph 5. If we look, county library makes available diversity of ideas and information to support and inform citizenry. I would take out a democratic society, like you said, Mary Esther, let's just keep it brief, keep it simple. I think that's just an additional fluff word that kind of jumbles it up. Because basically what we're talking about is the society, the citizenry of our local community. I think that kind of hits it, with taking out, democratic society. That's my opinion.
Okay, so relying on principles of intellectual freedom and access for all, the Boundary County Library makes available a diversity of ideas and information to support an important citizenry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Period.
Yep.
Period.
Yeah, just period.
That reflects on it.
Exactly.
Yep.
And that's it.
I do also, since we're on this paragraph, we had added in that last part before the appendix. And I don't think that last part, the government is also allowed to enforce secrecy of some information. I don't think we need to add that, because that doesn't affect the library at all. It's just saying what the government can do with the First Amendment. So I think we can leave that out. I think it can just end with, or speech that incites immediate and imminent lawless action.
Okay.
Do you know what can you see what I'm saying?
I see.
I
No,
don't think
just-
we need to finish out with the government is also allowed. It's a good education sentence to let us know how the First Amendment works, but I don't think it's needed for this policy.
But it is reflecting on this appendix A.
I think this appendix A can go in there, but, I mean, if there's an appendix that points back to what the government is allowed to do, I don't think the appendix is pertinent to.
Well, and the reason I kind of included it was because it's part of the case, when the case is described.
I did wonder about that case. I didn't see how that case enforced.
It's the one that comes up when you cite it, when you talk about the narrow way in which First Amendment does not apply. That's the citation I took. Because I went at it a couple of different ways.
It's a very good case. I don't see how it reflects materials in the library. I don't see how it's.
I was wondering the same.
To me, it's it defines the narrow way in which First Amendment can be abridged.
Tell me how.
Well,
Because I don't see how it relates to,
Yeah.
I don't see how it relates to a library. I see how it relates to somebody vocalizing and picketing, so to say. Maybe that's not the right word to use, but I didn't see how it, I think we can find a lot better examples than.
but this is the one that comes up. When you
Okay.
when you go to Google and you type in the narrow way in which you can abridge free speech, this is the case, Brandenburg versus Ohio is the one that came up for me.
That just tells me the algorithm is pushing, is popping it up. I mean, it doesn't mean it's the most pertinent one, but.
I hear what you're saying, there's just a caveat back into that too, Lee. I hear what you're saying, and I hear what you're saying. You know, I found 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, I meant to print this out, I didn't get the printer. But I found 6 different case laws that go from the Supreme Court to different state Supreme Courts that are more dialed into, and I hear what you're saying on Appendix A, but they're more dialed into specifically, you know, you're talking literature, you're talking books, you're talking libraries, you're talking school libraries. I think that might be a more fitting case law example to caveat into. I hear what you're saying, but I don't see how that case law, Brandenburg versus Ohio, I think we need to find some better examples.
Well, I think the key word here is community standards
Yeah.
as opposed to First Amendment. You know, there aren't any, as far as I know, international security sensitive materials in the Boundary County Library. These other things that, you know, where Brandenburg talks about the limits of individual speech. What matters is what can, more specifically, libraries and schools and people that have to deal with finite budgets, you know, how do they make their selection process? And there's quite a bit of law out there, the gist of which is community standards are given rather broad authority in the federal courts, because the library can't buy everything that's out there. It has to make choices. And those choices that held by the courts to be dictated by community standards,
Yeah.
which aren't necessarily the same in Boundary County as they might be in Portland or Seattle.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's very pertinent when it comes to when we do add in what the Supreme Court definition of obscenity is that it does talk at this, the standard of looking at it does say community, and I think community is bold, is because we don't have the same ideas in this community as, let's say, Las Vegas, of what obscenity means. It can't, we can't go off of the same law.
So are we talking like the Miller decision?
That's
or-
what I was mentioning, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
And then can you just email me those
Yeah,
6
yeah,
cases?
when we conclude your thing, I'll forward that to you.
Yeah, yeah, that would work.
Yeah, the thing that I found, that it doesn't cover all of it, but if you go right to the federal website, and I handed it out, that was one of the first documents that I handed out at the very first meeting, is a printout for a Citizen's Guide to Federal Law on Child Pornography. And it's the very first line. It says, images of child pornography are not protected under the First Amendment rights and are illegal contraband under federal law. That right there tells me, right off the federal website, it's not from a article. It's right for them saying that it is not protected under the First Amendment right. And I'm sure there's other things that can be found, other court cases, and that's not a court case, it's what the federal court, or
Right.
the federal
Yeah,
code says.
Because I was looking at that guide as well, and, I mean, that's superior law.
Yeah.
Or Supreme law, no, superior law, it's very clear.
It is very
And when I'm
clear.
looking at, these other court cases of case law, whether it's, at the federal level or at state level, they're following those guidelines by superior law. So I think that's why I want to forward this to everybody, these different references of case law. That way we're all kind of making sure we're using the right case law for the right area.
Yeah, I didn't want it to get too jumbled either. I like the simplicity that we've been trying to go with.
So when you talk about is that, the things you sent out, is that the page 1 and 2 where it says Citizens Guide to U.S. Federal Law on Obscenity? Is that what you're?
There's that one, and then there's also a Citizen's Guide to U.S. Federal Law on Child Pornography. And it's the Citizen Guide to the U.S. Federal Law on Child Pornography that I'm looking at. Because yeah, obscenity is different. The adult law is different. It's based on a community standard. But child pornography is never protected by the First Amendment right, under any circumstance for any age. That's just
That's
how
why
it
it's
is.
illegal.
That's why it's illegal.
But then we covered that in following all federal and state law.
I totally agree. I completely agree.
So-
I was just
On
looking
this
at.
discussion, instead of having the appendix of this case, then maybe we should just put in the Miller test. And in this Citizen's Guide to U.S. Federal Laws and Obscenity, there's the three-prong Miller test and there's the two-prong Miller test.
Yeah, we could add both
So,
of them.
yeah, maybe if we put those as an appendix of how.
Well, it's definitely more relevant than Brandenburg.
I think so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because that's what the question's gonna be to anybody that is questioning any books in libraries, how do we come to that conclusion? And the Miller test is how we come to that conclusion, isn't it?
Yeah, the Miller test and also this, both of the guides. And they could just be links if somebody was getting them offline, so it wasn't even printed, and if they are getting a printed copy, it can be an appendix.
What do you think, Lee?
So, the reason, my understanding is the reason we went with, or the reason I was looking into the narrow way kind of idea is that, the sentence says, the BCL recognizes the United States Supreme Court has ruled that there are certain narrow categories of speech that are not protected by the First Amendment. And then it goes through the list: obscenity, child pornography, defamation of fighting words, or speech that incites immediate and imminent lawless action. That's why we ended up with the Brandenburg versus Ohio decision, because that's the one that addresses the narrow way in which that closely matches our sentence.
Okay, so you could leave Brandenburg in, since you are referring to it there, but also include the Miller test, which is more, specific to the situation that libraries deal with.
No, you're leaving an option, they can read that.
Yeah.
So what I would prefer to do is we stopped on 21,
It's
right?
already been 40 minutes.
21, we stopped on 21, and that was adult materials which come to the Supreme Court of the United States disposition, obscenity will be excluded, and then we can put the obscenity definition, and then we can also say, And the one above it, it says materials for minors under the age of 18. I guess we never actually addressed child pornography directly.
Well,
So we do that, the
I
murder
don't-
test?
Idaho code does cover
But,
child
that
pornography.
code does.
Right, but we never stay in the document, because to me, I guess to me, the idea is in the first sentence is, whatever sentence it is, it says, Boundary County letter calls us state federal law, says we won't.
Right.
Exactly. I think it does.
So should we, at that point, do we cite White, Miller, and whatever other one?
At this
So-
point, I'm wondering why we even need an appendix. That's
Referring to this stuff.
correct.
And that gives
Because
you
there's
options.
so many options in my mind, I'm wondering why we even need one, but I think it's important to have those words there.
Oh, do I might throw out to the crowd, if you have a telephone that keeps going off, you can just put it on airplane mode. Thank you.
So you're saying not have any court case, it's just what we have referred to.
If it
in
boggles
21.
down the situation,
Right, exactly.
then I don't
And they can
know,
search it, like
Be-
say online.
because I don't think this one points to it. I like the ones that we had talked about, but if we keep adding so many, I say let's just,
Right, because we're not ready.
yeah, for
Right.
simplicity, because we do want to make it simple. There are so many court cases and so many examples that we can give. And I don't know if it really adds meat to the policy. I think that
Well, you don't
it-
have to necessarily reproduce all this stuff, you could just list it as references.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
and that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think
And then
that's
if
a good
somebody
idea.
wants to pursue it,
Right.
yeah.
They can look it up online.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, I like
References
that.
are good.
I like that better, not so much
Right,
that's
yeah.
added to it.
Have to print it out.
Mhm.
So, just to clarify, appendix A goes away,
Becomes a reference.
Becomes a
and
reference.
then at
And
the
the
end of the
mailing test, same
document,
thing,
the policy,
reference.
we're gonna cite,
And then
I do
your
like that, yeah.
documents that you're.
we're gonna cite.
I would just put it in reference.
Reference, yeah, as well.
I still think that we need to take out that last part, the government is also allowed to enforce secrecy of some information when it is considered essential to national security, like troop movements in time of war, classified information about defense. I don't think we need it.
It's not reference, it's
Yeah.
not relevant to the.
Yeah, I just say
I
and
agree with that.
before it.
So, if we do Brandenburg and Miller at the end
As
as
reference.
references,
And,
And the
I would
US
say that
citizen.
These other,
okay?
case laws too as well.
Okay. And then, okay.
There's some case laws.
There's so much out
Get
there.
lost in case
Yeah,
law.
yeah.
Okay.
No.
All right, so, according to my paper here, that puts us at paragraph 21. Assuming that so far we're good with everything that's gone on,
We in 6.5 now,
we are
At the end of 6.5.
at the end of 6.5,
okay.
the last paragraph of 6.5. I'm sorry, oh.
I don't have the numbered paragraphs.
Sure.
that
You
you're
know, just
referring
draw
to.
mine for a second and.
Well, I got
yours.
Doug's too.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So then, if we go back to the original draft we worked from last time, we go to 21. Are we good with 21?
Yes, with adding the will. be
Will be
excluded.
Yes,
excluded.
will be excluded.
Okay.
Yeah, that was good to me.
Okay, so then we are in 6.6, the selection process. The selection process. And paragraph 22 is material selection is a discerning and deliberative process involving general knowledge of the subject and its important literature, familiarity with the Boundary County Library collection, and awareness of bibliographies on the subject, and understanding of the community needs and interests.
I think that's good.
I think it's good, except for I thought it went perfect up in the selection guidelines. I'm not understanding what the difference between the selection guidelines and the selection process is. It's that paragraph, that whole section to me is describing what the guidelines are again.
Yeah.
You're saying, are you proposing to just dump it because it's redundant?
No, well,
Or just
That-
nested within 6-5.
I thought it went perfect above, materials for young children, right above that, in between the two, up in the selection guideline. To me, a process more tells how it's going to be selected, and I don't see how they say that.
Yeah, just, I mean, it's brief. Just take that one. and move it.
Move it up to 2019.
And just say 6.5 is selection guidelines in process.
Above 19.
Above 19?
Yeah, so in
Would that
between 18 and 19, move all of 6.6, which is only the two
Two
paragraphs, in between 18 and 19.
But 6.5 would be selection guidelines and process.
Yes,
All right.
exactly.
Yeah.
So you want between 18 and 19?
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
So that's paragraph 22 and 23 moved up to,
Above materials for children.
and 18 and 19.
That was 22 and 23.
Yeah, I'm suggesting 22 and 23 get moved up into between 18 and 19.
In process, okay.
And then combine those two sections.
So that section will be guidelines and
And
process.
process.
All right. So 6.7, material. Materials and resources. The Boundary County Library purchases materials for adults, children, young people, and adults based on the selection criteria outlined in the collection development policy. The Boundary County Library collects and maintains a wide variety of materials to meet the needs of the community as a whole. These materials vary by format, use, and intended audience. Okay.
I just wondered, or just suggesting that just put this policy instead, there hasn't been anywhere else that we've listed out that whole policy yet, outlined in the collection development policy. That's the policy we're working on, correct? That's this policy, so what if we just scratch it out and put based on the selection criteria outlined in this policy?
Oh,
For just that paragraph or for the section?
Just for that paragraph. I don't see, where else did it say? I
collection
haven't
development.
seen. It just made me think for a little bit, where's that? Oh wait, that's this policy. Just for clarification.
All right, so, and that's the only comment on 24th. All right, 25. Boundary County Library Collection provides a broad range of materials to stimulate interest and satisfy curiosity across the spectrum of age, interest, and ability. A variety of viewpoints and treatments are sought. The collection supplements, but is not intended to support any specific educational curriculum.
What does treatments are sought mean?
I don't know, to me that was,
I think we should delete that, 'cause I have no clue what it means.
There's a variety of
Pretty
different
redundant,
needs,
but
communities,
needs.
and groups.
Yeah.
So just take that sentence out.
But I was, if we do keep that sentence, then I was, instead of treatments are sought, let's support lifelong learning. You know, viewpoints and support lifelong learning, if that's instead.
Yeah, I like that.
so a variety of viewpoints to support lifelong learning or SOC.
Yeah, I guess. And then scratch that collection of supplements are not intended for to support a specific educational curriculum, because in the next section it says that we do not
Right.
purchase those.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Yeah, so we take that out.
anything that's gonna, educate and enlighten is gonna support any education system.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
cut out the last sentence and then leave in 26.
Leave in
Yes,
26.
yeah.
Okay. 27, are we good? Wendy?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Material is selected from respective review sources on the basis of excellence among various factors, including text, illustrations, information, content, format, and interest to and suitability for the targeted age group. While physical format is not a barrier to inclusion in the collection, some formats are avoided for practical reasons. These include pop-up and mechanical books, spiral-bound volumes and books, or periodicals designed to be written in, cut apart, or otherwise altered by the reader.
I agree.
Pretty
That makes sense.
non-controversial.
Okay? Books in series are evaluated in terms of their own merit as individual titles and may be acquired without the inclusion of other titles in the same series. Popular paperback series are included as demanded and quality warrant.
No problem.
Okay? Well, these are pretty straightforward. The titles that promote a product and are used primarily as promotional or advertising vehicles are generally not purchased.
Do we need that?
My impression of this particular statement is when somebody comes in and says, you know, can you buy my book? The staff can say, well, you know, here in the policy it says, we can't buy this book because we see it as promoting this product. So it's, to me, it's a defense of the staff.
The first thing that comes to my mind is children's manuals
Right,
for auto repair.
well, so,
But I don't even know if they have those anymore.
they
Clearly
do.
With the internet.
Direct and interesting.
Well, my eggs are-
Yeah, that's everything too.
Just leave it in.
Yeah.
Well, and to me, if a person comes in and says, I would like you to buy my book, and you say, well, it just gives the staff something to
It's
say.
in the, it's written.
In the policy.
It's written, there you go.
That's what this is for.
Check, check.
Okay.
And then, the last, let's see, we're on 30. The selection criteria for the children's, young people, and young adults collection are consistent with those for adult material.
I think we should take that out. For, to the back here on last,
On 6.4,
material for children and young people and young adults are intended to broaden their vision, blah, blah, blah. Okay.
So it's already implied that that's taken care of?
Yeah, but consistent with adult, which means that it's consistent with the policy, and so everything in the library should be consistent with the policy,
so we shouldn't separate it out at all.
should we?
It's like
Well,
recent.
Well,
I'm
it's
trying
redundant,
to
just
think,
get rid
yeah,
of
it
it.
is, I'm trying to think if there's a reason. Going to like the library bill of rights, how I read their section saying that a person's right to use the library should not be denied or abridged because of age, I'm cutting out the other ones. It means that the children are counted the same as an adult, that we should look at the whole library as
And that's already
acceptable
addressed.
to the children, yeah, and it is addressed. I don't mind taking out, I am gonna start and think about it, but I can't think of a reason why. Again, I'm thinking about your example with, this whole policy is a criteria of why are we allowing certain books or not allowing certain books into the library. So I'm trying to think if that would be an example if somebody came up and, so that the staff and a director could use that. But I can't think of why, how it's any different from what we've already put out. The children's and young people and young adults collections should be consistent with what the adult and vice versa.
Unless we're gonna put special criteria in for the children's library in this section.
See, and I think that's what we're not.
So it needs to be there.
I don't think it needs to be there. It seems like the book selection process for the Howell Library should be the same?
Should all be the same, that's what I'm thinking too.
So just take the whole sentence out.
Okay. All right. So we're on 31. Okay, new formats. New formats will be added to the Boundary County Library's collection of industry reports and public library practice and evidence of community interest. More materials published in such a way. The Boundary County Library will keep abreast of new formats and, when possible, will acquire and make new ways of delivering content readily available to the community.
I agree.
Okay, so this is kind of turning, fiction.
Yeah.
Okay,
Tax dollars at work.
all right, 32 is fiction. Works of fiction are the major component of the Boundary County Library's collection. Fiction is purchased on the basis of positive reviews, anticipated demand, or cardholder request. The collection includes novels of the past and present, notably for literary merit, cultural value, and popularity. Multiple copies in multiple formats may be purchased to meet demand.
I agree with that.
Yeah, it's a lot of conflict,
Okay, notification. The Boundary County Library purchases, nonfiction. Boundary County Library purchases nonfiction on a wide variety of subjects and eras and to provide in-depth information on the topic. Nonfiction is purchased on the basis of reviews, anticipated demand, and/or cardholder requests. Straightforward. Okay, a large print book collection is maintained to meet the leisure reading needs of anyone who has difficulty reading conventional type size. The collection is chiefly composed of classic and contemporary fiction, emphasizing bestsellers and mysteries.
I would like to combine 34 and 35, and then just add 35 as, okay, best-selling mysteries, high-interest nonfiction such as biographies and comics-related materials. Why do we need
Into
to?
the
Yeah, why
large
do we need
print
two
collection.
Yeah, why do we need paragraphs for that?
So, and that may be a cut and paste operation of mine. I could combine
And the collection is chiefly composed of, I would say, we don't need chiefly in there either.
Yeah.
I mean, it's composed of all these
Yeah.
areas.
where was,
The
And
second
34.
sentence.
okay.
So that makes the large print collection just one paragraph.
Okay. All right. Reference collection. The Boundary County Library maintains a print and digital collection of non-circulating reference materials to meet the informational needs of the community. Reference materials are characterized by their ability to provide information and to summarize, condense, or provide a comprehensive overview of a topic. Any questions about that? Okay, selection criteria of particular importance for reference sources are accuracy, currency, arrangement, ease of use, uniqueness of information, authority, documentation, and indexing for aspects. The Boundary County Library also selects and makes available a small collection of genealogical reference materials to aid in tracing family relationships.
Do we have that?
I was gonna say, I've never seen it, but that would be
Yeah.
awesome if it has it.
You know what, I can ask.
I mean, I'm not saying take it out or anything, I'm just.
Is it available?
Yeah, is it available?
Right, I will.
Because if it's not, then.
We should take it out.
Yeah.
That's right.
We don't want to be forced into putting it in there if it's not there, or, you know.
Well, and again, this is,
Some libraries.
some
And
of these are
museum.
pretty old. May not be current. Okay. Electronic databases. The Boundary County Library subscribes to databases that supplement and expand the reference, periodical, and circulating collections. Electronic subscriptions are selected and evaluated yearly based on the same content policies as the rest of the collections, paying special attention to usage, accessibility, ease of use, and cost. Boundary County historical material. Boundary County Library collects and makes available to the public for research a small collection of resources pertaining to Boundary County, North Idaho, and Eastern history. The collection serves as an entry point for those interested in learning more about the history and development of the area. It also preserves materials of local interest, including works by local authors, works dealing with local subjects, and locally published works. So we check and make sure that's the case?
Yeah, the thing that this brought to my attention is, do we have a section that is just local artists? It brought out local artists that write historical works, but I'm sure there's local artists in the community that write literature for entertainment, which seems to be the highest usage of our library. Do we have a section for that? Are they included in the library?
I know that I've been in the library before and they've had like spotlighted
Mhm.
local
Yeah,
people.
yeah, I remember that.
But, I don't know that they have they'll come together for the spotlight and then they'll separate it out back to the library where it goes. But my question would be is if you went up to a library and said, hey, you want to the local that writes text, they would be able to direct you to that?
Can we add a section in for local artists like we have all the other sections? Versus just having them listed under historical materials?
But that might be, put them into a place where people aren't gonna like necessarily look.
Okay, so you're
You
saying
know,
that
like
they're,
a book with a fiction on, my wife and child, or whatever, I don't know.
they're
Well,
included in
if
the
they're
others.
teachers,
Yeah.
then, because at what point do they get to have to come to talk with it?
Right.
You know?
Right.
I just found it interesting that out of all of these sections, local artists were only listed under historical materials.
Well, what I can do is, again, I'll swing by and talk to them and see what they do now and
This would also be a project of an empty record.
Oh, that's a good idea, Wendy. Good idea.
That it could be added in there later maybe, or, I just wondered if we wanted to specify it.
But
Cause I
then
thought-
again, you have a timeline, because at what point do they go into the regular, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of, it's gonna get muddy,
Go into the regular what, I'm not
it's into
understanding.
the regular collection.
Like if you have a local author that writes a novel, is it gonna stay just in local and people aren't gonna see it, they are just going to the novel section?
Or just like a featured, maybe in the last 5 years.
I guess I'm
Anyway,
not-
But
I'm-
again, I think Wendy has it, the new director may wanna tailor.
So I guess brings up a question, because that's different from what I'm stating. So each of these, so fiction, nonfiction, large print collection, reference collection, all of those are in a separate place in the library? I thought that they were kind of mixed, like large print, it doesn't have its own place.
It does.
It does have its own
And
place.
there's, last time I looked there, and I don't use it, last time I looked, there was like 2 shelves. I should. There was two, not shelves, 2 stretches of books, and then in there, it was just a large print section.
Okay.
And there's, fiction and nonfiction are pretty straightforward.
Oh.
And then the reference collection, I haven't used since they invented the internet, so I don't know.
But
That was
traditionally,
like-
it's been its own, just like they have, the videos and the audio books, have their own section.
I guess I was just trying to think of a way to put it then that would, include local artists and all of them, but I can't see where that would be.
So again, when we were talking about if you have a local artist that writes a fiction book or a nonfiction
Yeah.
historical book, so you have a local artist that's written a book, that there would be, it seems like it would be reasonable that during a section of the year, it would be, accentuated or however you want, like these are all the local artists, and we would include every book written by a local artist. And then when that was over, it would go separate out, and go back into the nonfiction section where it belongs according to the Dewey Decimal System or however they do it.
And maybe could be a job for the Friends of the Library to have some kind of plaque or, some kind of on the wall that says, these are our local artists, please check it out or something. Anyway.
Or we could put in the, purchase of material, put a priority on local artists.
Thank you, that's kind of what that's along the lines of what I was trying to think of, is how can we include.
So that they have to be in the library.
So it's not just listed under history, it's like, where else could we add it to show that it actually means something to us?
So in the selection process, we could maybe put something on priority list. Is that a possibility?
So,
Just put a paragraph regarding that. And then when the new director starts, we could mention it.
Yeah, then we can just figure out where it goes, it doesn't have to be in a specific spot.
Maybe under collection maintenance. You know, that priority is given to purchasing local artists.
That's not purchase. Could we put it under 16? Within budget constraints, Downtown Library strive to provide a collection in formats suitable to a variety of learning and recreational interests and skills with a priority towards local artists. Could we do that?
Just simple, yeah.
Yeah, just
Just add that.
add that on there.
Yeah, thanks, Jean.
Acquisition.
I like it.
so Anand is back on paragraph 16, back at the, under the selection guidelines, selection and guidelines
And
of
guidelines
process.
process.
Yeah.
Okay, first paragraph, all right?
Does that work? Satisfy everybody?
Yeah, I think that satisfies me.
Okay. All right, so are we good, moving on from, historic materials, paragraph 40? Are we good? 41 is rare and expensive books. Boundary County Library does not maintain a rare book collection. The library does not add rare or unusual books or find special handling to the collection. That's, to me, we're a practical service library, we're not someplace where you would
Yeah.
Could we put in there that we refer them to the museum?
What's wrong with it, just the way it's written?
So next paragraph, if it comes to staff attention that a book that is already owned has become rare or expensive, decisions will be made on a case-by-case basis as to whether to retain the item or transfer it to an appropriate artifact. So, and then 43, if a specific item under consideration is costly, the selector will give careful consideration to other materials on the subject in the collection, how this item compares, and the importance of the title to the development of the collection. If the costly item is purchased, it will be added to the collection and treated like any other item. And to me, that's kind of the crux of what we're talking about, is we're here to be, kind of a productive library or a used library. And if you have a book that's expensive in there, used libraries and that don't really, used libraries and that don't really. Okay. Local, state, and federal documents. Are we good so far?
Yeah.
The Boundary County Library collects some local documents pertaining to Boundary County and makes them available to the community. However, the library does not maintain a local, state, or federal document depository. An increasing number of government documents are available on the internet or may be consulted in person at a coinciding agency. Okay. Spanish materials. A small collection of Spanish language materials is maintained to address the informational and leisure reading needs of Boundary County Spanish-speaking residents. The selection criteria are consistent with that used for the selection of all library materials. Are we good? Media collection. The Boundary County Library purchases a variety of media, including movies, audiobooks, and software. The collection does not include materials produced specifically for classroom use. Selection criteria for adult children, young people, and young adult media are the same as those applied to print material. Special consideration is given to the purchase of items that have received awards or other special recognition by organizations, institutes, or associations.
I would just say, can we take the collection does not include materials produced specifically for classroom use, because back on 26, it says the Boundary County Library does not purchase any school.
Yeah,
material.
thank you. I agree.
good with 46? Okay. 47, visual materials, Boundary County Library purchases series, feature films, educational and documentary films. Or visual materials are evaluated as a whole and not on the basis of particular scenes or segments. In some instances, materials may be judged primarily on artistic merit, scholarship, historic record, or importance in meeting the informational needs of the community. Okay. 49, items are considered for purchase in response to demand for a specific title or topic.
Can we add that to 47?
So we'll make this 47, are we good with that?
Yep.
Okay. All right, we're up to 50. Titles in the collection are selected in part on their merit and are neither purchased nor excluded because of their MPAA rating. Any rating information included on the package is left as is.
Okay, I'll show my ignorance. What's MPAA?
The PGR rating. Motion picture, somebody?
Okay.
Picture association.
Oh,
Yeah.
there we go.
Okay.
They don't include X's and triple X's, do they?
Yeah.
Because we do exclude those, but I don't think they're included in
We've
those.
excluded the really bad stuff under the porn policy
Right.
Yeah,
already.
but that's not included as part of the MPAA, correct? I just want to make sure. But that's a totally different rating if I don't know it.
I'm old and
I just want to make sure that we're saying we don't exclude it, but,
We don't have it.
yeah. I don't think it's part of that, so I think that sentence is accurate.
Okay. I would ask a question about that, because I'm not sure.
But we do cover, you're right, we do cover it right here, so I guess the
Because that's
sentence
just
does read as we
straightforward.
don't exclude it because of the rating, but we do exclude it because of what previously was stated. Okay, I'm just thinking out loud.
Okay, and, so are we good?
Okay.
All right, 51, titles are not acquired with public performance rights. Important
Pretty
caveat.
standard.
Okay, audio ebooks. The adult collection features popular fiction and nonfiction as well as literary classics, language instruction, business, poetry, plays, lectures, speeches, and materials that promote and facilitate lifelong learning. Are we good? The children's, young people, and young adults collection includes, but is not limited to, adaptations of children's literature, folk and fairy tale, poetry, ethnic literature, and nonfiction with an emphasis on out-of-school programming.
What does that mean?
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
what does
I was
that mean?
just, when I read this, out-of-school programming meant summers and vacations to me, but I will check on what that means.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
So to me, it's like, if they had a workshop in the summer on, well, they do, they have the workshop in the summer on like snakes,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And so they do this whole workshop on snakes that's very educational and
Okay,
multimedia based, or however you want to look at it.
that makes sense.
Okay.
But it's not in conjunction with a curriculum through a school.
Yeah, you're probably right, and if that's what it means, I think we can think of a better way of saying that versus out-of-school programming.
I will check and clarify, because that's my
We
assumption.
could put something like seasonal activities.
I would just say activity-based learning.
Yeah,
Yeah, just-
yeah. I say let's just change it to that
You thought about
right
that
now,
already.
yeah.
Well-
I like that,
No, that's great.
yeah. Say it again so I can write it down.
Activity-based learning,
Yeah.
because we would really do that anytime.
Anyway,
Exactly,
yeah,
I
that
like
goes on
that.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
The Boundary County are we good with? Okay, 54, the Boundary County Library purchases both abridged and unabridged audiobooks and CD, e-audiobook, and other electronic formats.
Straightforward.
Okay, so, this also, I think, is a point. So we have we probably have like a half hour to go through stuff, and then 15 minutes to set up for our next meeting, because I mean, we've done really well, we're at 54.
Well, 55 is the big deal in the whole
Right,
thing.
so what I'm
Right.
thinking is, we have a half hour to go through 55. We want to just start, and
Let's talk about 55.
okay.
Yeah, I'm good with
Okay, so 55. So this is 6.8, reconsideration of Boundary County Library materials. And then the first paragraph in the new order I came up with was, the Boundary County Library is not a judicial body. Laws governing obscenity, subversive materials, and other questionable matters are subject to interpretation by the courts. Therefore, no challenged material will be removed solely for the complaint of obscenity or any other category covered by law until a court of competent jurisdiction has ruled to exclude the material.
So may I state I have a problem with this?
Okay.
Okay, so I think the way a lot of people would read this is an invitation to lawfare, essentially saying, okay, you know, you don't like something in our library, well, screw you, sue us, is what I see here. And then in the next paragraph, we go into a reconsideration policy where community members can, where we show them where there is a process where somebody's not happy with something, there's this process that we can go through. And I see these paragraphs as being really somewhat contradictory, both in spirit and in letter. I think 55 is bad on so many levels, we should just get rid of it.
Yeah.
So 55 is in there because that's basically out of the training that we did with ICRIP on how to manage concerning items in your collection. So this is not a question about things that we don't have in the library. What we're not talking about a book we may order in the future or things that we are bringing in the future. What this says, what my understanding of this is if someone comes to the library and they say, you have book X or movie X or whatever in your, let's not use X. Let's use Y. Because that's a good question. You have item Y in your library. And I don't want it there, and I want it taken out immediately. My understanding of the process is that that cannot be done. We cannot remove item Y from the library, regardless of what it is, until we go through the process in 56. Because if we remove item Y from the library before going through process in paragraph 56, we are found in conflict with law. Because law says you can't be predeterminational, I believe, pre-decisional, I think is the right term, for items in your collection.
Well, okay, but that's really not what I get out of this as written. I think this maybe needs to be made a little clearer in terms of the point that you're making, saying, okay, that we as a library by law just can't pull something from the shelf without going through this process, but that's not really what I think most people would interpret this meaning the way it's written right now.
So what if, I would,
Can I suggest something? Can we put that paragraph back here where it says that we apply all the state and federal laws? Can we do it not in that section necessarily?
so the reason I put it here
Yeah.
is because what I wanted to do is clarify for the staff. So if somebody comes in and says, this book you have, book Y, or whatever, Y, is inappropriate. I want you to take it out now. And to me, that once somebody comes in and says, you have Y, take it out, then we go under reconsideration. Because we've already put it in the collection. So once it's in the collection, it's not about whether or not we're gonna buy it. We already have whatever this item is. Somebody's gonna come and say, you need to take it out. I believe we have to have a way in the policies for the staff to answer that, why they can't take it out. And to me, that's first of all, why the first paragraph is there, and it can be reworked so it's clear.
I think it can be reworked so it's clearer and less inflammatory.
Right, and that's fine.
I do think it's a very combative paragraph. I went through this section quite a bit because I think that this section is it's one of the most important. Besides how we get the books, it's what happens. I thought that we should start out this with focusing back and bringing it full circle from our mission statement. So I have that we start out this whole section with the Boundary County Library's primary mission is to inform, educate, culturally enrich, and the entire community. It does this by following the guidelines stated in this policy, and then go into groups of individuals may find Boundary County Library materials that do not support their option, or their opinions. I thought that we should, like you would in a paper, point to our mission statement, to because this is summing the whole thing up in my mind when it comes to the reconsideration.
But that doesn't address that an individual can go in and demand a work.
But we address that in the next section of the procedure will be followed. In that next section, we go over what's the procedure that happens, and I think that, well, I typed something up, I think that we should put more meat into that section about what happens.
Into 56.
Into,
Under the whole reconsideration.
into.
The whole policy.
No, into all, starting on 57. I think that starting from 57 going on under this procedure will be followed. I think we need more meat in that section and just leave that beginning part as a not so combative. Because it is a very combative, yes, it states it, but we also stated at the very bottom on section, find the number. Number 58, the copy or copies of the challenged material will remain available to the public until disposition is determined. I think that that states it very clearly that it does not, because yes, we can't take it out until determination. And I think another part that should be added in there that when we get to it is I think whatever the board says is final. That's it. I mean.
We'll discuss that when we get there.
Okay.
So I think not too far,
Yeah.
number 4 is the material review committee's decision making appeal to the Boundary County Library Board of Trustees who will consider all documentation collected from the material review and action to make a final decision.
Yes.
That's the.
Yeah, I think that
4.
I think that
Right?
that's
I mean,
important.
the-
I think
the
those
four-step
two
process.
things are very important, and I think that that covers what that paragraph says. It is a very combative paragraph.
So, what I can do is if we cut out 55,
Okay.
Please.
so we cut 55, and the reason I think, because number 3 is the Boundary County follows all state and public law. Okay,
Right, yeah, I
so,
think that it should be added there, so that.
well,
I think it
right
needs to
there
be
it
in
says,
both places.
we're gonna do what the law says.
Mhm.
We're gonna keep 56, assuming, I'm sure we're gonna have to go through it. And then we're going to keep 58 at the end, and that's the one that says the copy should be on display until the final determination. Or whatever, final, whatever,
Correct.
until we're through step 4 of our reconsideration.
So we're doing away with 55 completely.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
And again, this is the cut and paste document that I signed.
Yeah, understand.
We're good. So, first paragraph into reconsideration of Boundary County materials would be, now, groups or individuals may find Boundary County Library materials that do not support their community's views. Staff is available to discuss concerns and identify alternate materials that may be available. If a concern is not satisfied through discussion with staff, a formal written request for reconsideration of materials may be submitted to the Congress County Library Director by filling out the Congress County Library material reconsideration form. Is that?
So you're saying that's going to be number one?
So that would be paragraph 1 under 6.8 reconsideration. So we would dump the legalese and we would start out with the process.
Yeah.
Okay.
Give me just a second, there was one thing I wanted to discuss, and I just want to see if I can put that in. Okay. I had written, if the patron chooses to go forward with the challenge, the staff will provide them with the material reconsideration packet. The material reconsideration packet includes a letter from the director, a material selection and collection development policy, and the Boundary County Library material reconsideration form. So instead of them just handing them, my idea is instead of them just handing them a form and saying, here, fill this out. It's, here's our policy that we wrote for you to look over. Here's a letter, and the ALA gives an example of a letter that I think is really good, and I think that we should, that it would be easy to include it. I pull it out.
So would that fit under?
It would all be under one.
Under one?
Yeah,
Okay.
so let's
I
say
have
a
it.
patron is upset, they come up to talk, did you find it?
Yeah, a concerned patron who is dissatisfied with earlier informal decisions will be offered a packet of material that includes the library's mission statement, selection policy, reconsideration form, and library bill of rights.
Yes,
That's what you're talking
yes.
about, right?
And then here's the letter that the director will hand to him.
One
Dear
file.
so-and-so, we appreciate your concern over the use of, or over the material in the library. Selecting the materials that serve the needs of our community is a vital part of operating a library. The Board of Trustees takes the responsibility very seriously and has established a material selection policy for selecting resources as well as detailed reconsideration procedures for requesting reconsideration of particular items. I have enclosed both for you to review. Please feel free to contact me if you would like to discuss them further. If you are still concerned after you review the material public library policies, please complete the request for reconsideration of material and return it to me. You may be assured of prompt attention to your request. The steps that will be taken are outlined in the reconsideration procedure, and at any point during the process, please feel free to contact me with questions or concern. They sign it, they date it. To me, somebody getting this packet right from the beginning, it's controversial, they feel upset. Any way that we can de-escalate them and give them resources right from the beginning before it turns into a problem, I think is vital. And that's why I think that the packet, they give it to them all from the beginning and say, hey, contact me. If you still aren't satisfied after reading our policy and seeing why we have it in the library, then come to me, then fill it out, and we'll go through a process.
So can you email me that?
Yeah.
And then I can, what I can do is, let's see, so if I write packet here, and if you can send it to me,
Mhm.
and then I will,
Forward it out for people to see.
right,
I agree with Mary Esther that as soon as we can de-escalate, the better off we'll be.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
okay. So fills out. So in paragraph 56 then, right?
Yeah.
What I'm gonna wanna do is, if a concern is not satisfied through discussion with staff, a formal written request for reconsideration of materials may be submitted to the Boundary County Library Director. So what we need to do is change that.
No, I think that we should go through this
Yeah.
first, because I have a lot of questions about this procedure. So, about the process where it goes.
Yeah, I changed a lot of stuff, so I'm trying to keep up with changing all the ones,
So
twos,
where it
threes.
goes is gonna be, I know it's access.
I'm fine with the number one being that paragraph.
So, wait a minute, so what you're saying is for 56, which is the paragraph above,
Yeah,
if the concern is not satisfied through discussion with staff, formal written request is where we need to change stuff?
where are you seeing that? Are you just
It's
adding
the
it?
second, no, it's
Oh,
the
there you
second
go. If the
sentence.
concern is not satisfied through a written request. No, I was changing that to, if a concern is not satisfied through discussion with the staff,
A patron is given,
the staff will provide them with the material reconsideration packet,
Packet, it would include the bill of rights. and-
which would include, yes. And then I
But
listed
it does
what
not
it is.
guarantee that that item.
That item does not get removed, no. And that covers later on,
Yeah,
is
that's
that
just-
through this whole process, the item does not get removed.
Right.
The only time the item gets removed is if it gets to a point that it's decided that it isn't. Doesn't follow the policy.
Because, yeah, all the policies that we're still providing resources for the community.
Yeah.
And we're not all of them.
Correct. To me, I see the only way it doesn't follow the policy that it gets removed is if it breaks the law. That is the bottom line. Otherwise, there isn't a reason. If it breaks the law, that's the only reason I see, but that's my,
Yeah.
personal.
Yeah.
But I think of giving a packet to them, when I read that in the ALA, it made sense to me because it informed the concerned citizen.
okay, so then, if a concern is not satisfied through discussion with staff, the staff will provide material reconsideration packet, okay? Materials packets will be submitted to the County Library Director.
Where are you at?
So I'm trying to fix,
56.
I'm trying to fix paragraph 56,
Oh,
so
okay.
it says what we're gonna do. So,
I think scratch out that end. I think that second part of it is going to go into number two.
Yeah.
number 2,
Yeah, because what I had put for number two, if a reconsideration form is submitted to the library director, it is submitted, period, the library director will inform the board of the complaint and forward the information to the material review committee within 7 calendar days.
okay, so number 1,
Well, let's go 57, Valley County Library material reconsideration form are available at a curriculum desk. Let's start.
Okay, you have stuff with there?
Is that where it's gonna,
I thought that that was being moved. I thought we were changing that whole thing. Instead of having a section above, the procedure would be followed, the whole thing is just gonna be a procedure would be followed. I thought we had cut out 55 and we were starting with number 1. I assumed everything moved up.
so 55 is cut.
Yeah,
56, the first 2 sentences are the same. The second one talks about if a concern is not satisfied through discussion, staff will provide material reconsideration packet. Start at 57, Boundary County Library materials reconsideration packets are available at the circulation desk. Does that make sense?
yeah, did 56 become number 1?
I'm not sure where your confusion is.
50
We're at 57.
No,
Yeah.
56 is.
So did 56 become 57, is what I'm saying? Did you combine the two? Because that's how, the procedure that would be followed, number 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, I'm not.
So paragraph 56 is
Yeah.
right under 68.
Yeah.
6.8. And it says, groups or individuals may find. And then we will give them the reconsideration packet, which we talked about. And then 57 is the Boundary County materials reconsideration packets are available at the circulation desk, period.
Okay,
And then, I guess that's where it's confusing, is this procedure will be followed
Yeah,
for all reconsideration.
And number one.
and then number one, I thought that we were making 56 number one.
No,
No,
That's
it's
what I
just kind of
thought.
defines how we start.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
yes.
Okay,
Okay.
That's what I was.
then number one is basically the same thing as 56.
Well, no, number one is,
The procedure.
That's the procedure.
number one
procedure.
is, 56 is somebody has found something in the library they won't like.
Okay. Yeah, what I had written, and maybe this will answer why I'm saying that I think it's basically the same as 56. Number one, I wrote, the process begins with staff discussing the concern of the patron. During that interaction, the staff will explain the library has materials for everyone, and there is a selection policy in place. The staff should assist the patron in finding alternate materials that would better meet their needs. If the patron chooses to go forward with the challenge, the staff will provide them with the material reconsideration packet.
So you want to put that as number one?
That's what I'm thinking of the process starts. The process starts with the patron being upset with what they find in the library. And the first process is just talking with staff and staff pointing them in a direction that might be something more pertinent to what they're looking for. Trying to de-escalate the situation so that they don't contest it to be taken out. Because unless it breaks the law, the book probably will not pass to be taken out of the library. So that patron needs to be shown a different book that might go, or material that might cover what they were looking for along more of their view lines.
Then there has to be a paragraph that explains the issue. I mean, something that's said with library, and so the numbers have to go into the procedure, not what the issue is.
Right. So my feeling is, if we have done if the staff has talked to the patron,
Yeah,
and we expect staff to talk to patrons
Yeah.
on this issue for sure. That's one thing they're signing up for. And they talk to the patron, and the patron is not satisfied with the staff answer.
correct.
To me, once that patron is not satisfied with the staff answer, that's the process. I think the expectation of the board and the community in general is that librarians, if you come to a librarian and say, I don't like this book, they will be able to discuss that with you and correct each other. To me, that's it. It's mandated.
Okay, that you don't consider that part of the process?
No.
Okay,
To me,
okay.
the process is, the patron says, I don't like this book still. Or whatever. I don't like this still. So what is the process now? And to me, the process would start with the patron fills out and signs the Boundary County Materials Reconsideration Packet, which I like, that's a good idea. And gives or sends it to the Boundary County Library Director. So that's the first rung in the ladder.
Okay, I can go with that, I see it a different way, but I'm fine with looking at it that way too.
Well, I see it a different way too.
Yeah.
This is where I get confused. So there's somebody that doesn't, and pardon my ignorance if I've missed something somewhere. So I don't like a specific book. Okay, this is a public place. I don't have to check that book. You know, do we not have choice here? Because again, we're not all going to agree. You know, where does that fine line come in? Because, you know, if you don't like this book, so don't check it out.
Well,
That's
that
where
would
I'm
be-
totally confused.
That would be part of the discussion that the staff would have.
Okay.
You know, this is a book in our library, and our community requested it, and it fits with our view of our community, and it's checked out, and people use it. So, you know, that's what we're here for, is to provide that kind of context. But it's not to, I guess I'm lost as to what to say next. It's not to judge each individual title. It's like, we had enough requests for this title, or or it fit, or whatever, and so we picked it.
But we do have to have a procedure for if somebody
If
doesn't
the-
answer the.
Right.
Yeah.
But I can
We have
just
to
see
have
this as
procedure.
a gate to open up for a plethora of complaints and, you know, drown our staff, you know, the
I
library
agree,
staff.
that's why I have another
into-
suggestion.
Okay,
to
good,
get on
good.
here further.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Well,
then be patient.
I'm
Be
fine
patient
with
then.
having number one be the packet being turned in, or the request being turned in.
Okay.
That's,
Yeah, I'm okay.
I'm fine with that, I think that we covered it.
And that's a good reminder that they need to do that.
Yeah, in 56. Yeah, and I think it isn't, I'm glad we added in there about the staff discussing it, because even though I do think the library staff does that, I think it's a good reminder to remind them, to communicate with them. And that is reminding me that I did, put up here that all concerns will be taken seriously and treated with confidentiality and respect. Because there has been a few times where things are brought up, I've heard examples, none with myself, that they didn't feel like the staff treated them with respect, or that they took it seriously, that it was basically an eye roll. Like, oh, really? You know, you think that isn't, you don't like that one? So I just think we could add in there.
But I think patrons need to be respectful also.
I completely agree, yeah.
I don't know if that would fit in policy.
It would be in the
Respect.
other.
Respect.
I think you're right. Yeah, it would be in the the manual, the employee manual.
Right, and to me, you know, that doesn't fit in the collection policy, that's an employment issue.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay.
Yep.
So-
And you can't control your patrons.
Well, and-
You can't make somebody be respectful in the store.
Right, right. So, you know, I'm looking at the time.
Yes.
And so what I'm thinking is, why don't we just stop, and I will do my best version of paragraph 57. And it'll probably take me a week or two to figure this out and get it out to you guys, so you can look at it. But, you know, we made a long way.
So, I got part 3, where we get to who's on the committee and stuff. I think that's the reconsideration policy.
Yes.
Okay, we're running out of time, we don't have to discuss that now, but I definitely have
But
some
I think we're gonna
things.
come back to this whole thing.
Yeah.
I think so. If anybody wants, I didn't make a bunch of copies, but what I've done, if you're interested in looking over it, before and you want me to email, I can.
The,
What I had written up that we were gonna,
Colin, do you have something as well written up for the reconsideration?
Charlie has done a lot, you had a lot of questions.
Did
or
you
you
have-
put an idea
Sorry,
in
Charlie.
there.
I don't have anything done.
Okay, so,
Mary, we're gonna come back to this.
Yeah, we're gonna go
next time.
back.
Yeah.
So maybe before next time, we can all kind of write up what we're thinking.
and what we're looking for is, and then I sent the new reconsideration form, the old
Yes,
reconsideration
yes.
form. So if you could look through those, read those, and then look at this, because it, you know, according to my notes, this is probably gonna be the last contentious issue that we get to state it. So, I think we should take the last few minutes and go through some of the things we talked about earlier. If we can go back to that.
We're gonna take care of this community comment.
We can start there if you would like.
As long as we cover it.
So, community comments. So what I would need is a motion from somebody that went along the lines of, we would like to include public comment in our next community meeting.
I make such a motion.
Motion,
Second.
And this will be at the end of the meeting, correct?
With the time constraint?
Yeah, I think
Oh,
so.
15 minutes.
Well,
Well,
3 minutes, 2 minutes per speaker.
I mean, 15 total.
So not everyone.
well, honestly, when we do this, at the regular board meeting, I put out the timer, and I would say probably 70% of the people are right at 3 minutes. So you gotta keep in mind that there's a certain amount of shuffle that you gotta allow for, and then people are like, when they're public speaking, it's just a given. So, 3 minutes usually is a reasonable amount of time. So if we say, what, 4 speakers at the end of 3 minutes? Would that be a-
I would think.
4 speakers at the end for 3 minutes each?
Yeah.
Will there be a sign up?
Huh?
A sign up? Will there be a sign up?
So again, here's the question, how are we gonna divvy it up? Are we gonna try and divide it into like a both sides kind of thing, or are we just gonna, the first 4 people that shine up on the day?
Yeah, pretty good. Rice work.
Yeah, I think the challenge is 90% of meetings are probably gonna fit in that spectrum of time, that being 15 minutes. You get those hot topic issues once every 2 or 3 years, that's where kind of there's more conflict and friction, because then people feel disenfranchised over the last 15 minutes total, and 70 people want to speak. Like I said, it's just kind of, I don't know how to solve that problem.
So I'm thinking logistics here.
Yeah.
So, we spent half an hour, 25 minutes or so on and we really didn't get any closure on reconsideration form. Definitely, to me, that's our last big hurdle to get over.
That's a big one.
So I would say it would take an hour, just to be friendly, because you gotta start and you gotta say, hey.
For the
why we're here.
reconsideration form, you mean?
Yeah, for the reconsideration form, and we're gonna have to look at the different forms, and people are gonna have various edits and stuff like that. So if we do an hour for that, and maybe a half hour to get through the rest, and then we spend a half hour listening to comments?
That's reasonable.
Yeah, a while ago with one of the board meetings, we would sign up by sending in an email to the director. And she had a specific amount of people she knew with time frame that she could add. And I know there were a couple of times that she was like, well, I need to bump you till the next meeting because I have too many people signed up. And I was fine with that as long as I knew I had a chance. And I know we might not be meeting, it's a possibility that we could be done, but they could be the ones that are put on the top of the list for speaking for the board, which is, we had discussed, is actually an even more important time to speak. So people that were not given a slot, because if there is a lot of people, could be on the top of the list for the board, is my suggestion.
I don't think there's gonna be overly amount of public comment.
I don't think so either, but I'm saying if there is.
I don't know.
You gotta prepare for it.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
I think it's, as a committee, been reasonable and looked at a lot of sides, so I think that.
I think we're all pretty
Yeah.
all of us are on
And
different
you have,
sides.
and if you have a time constraint, you know, and I think knowing that this is coming, be pretty prepared.
Yeah. I think that it's
And
fine
write it
after the
down,
meeting.
because public speaking is tough.
Yeah.
So write it down and you can read it. I mean, I see that all the time, you know. If you're
Yeah, I
public
like the
speaking,
sign up,
just
we
read
just do
it.
the sign up, I don't think it's gonna be
It's
overly.
not gonna be great.
So, do we wanna go for 30 minutes at the end of the next meeting, assuming that we're gonna get done with this at the end?
Well, can that be contingent?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
can we-
I agree.
If we
Yeah.
get finished in an hour and a half, then the public gets 30
Yes,
minutes.
put it
If
on
it takes
agenda.
us hour and 40.
Yeah.
So what if we had a motion that we all agreed to that said, we will allow as much public comment as possible within
This
our
hour.
2-hour
Time constraint.
time meeting, whatever that
Yeah.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, as long as you have a guaranteed minimum of, say, 15 minutes in there, I'd go for that.
That should be added.
And if
With
there's extra
with
time
3 minutes.
available, then use it for public comment, if there's that many people who want to talk.
Is that a motion?
With a
Yeah.
3-minute timer?
Yeah, but with that minimum requirement of 15 minutes, and any additional time that's left open in the meeting, I would be comfortable with that.
But if we do split that, then we go, we're saying 30 minutes
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah.
You know, it's such an important, I mean, this is a policy issue for
Well, not
To have that
that
extra band.
certainly interested in survivor groups, what I mean. So,
Yeah.
But again, this group isn't defining it, I mean,
Right.
that it's going to be the board. Because these are recommendations that are going to the board.
right. And so we got at least one more meeting to hammer out the policy. Then we're gonna have one more meeting, which I would imagine is probably gonna still be a 2-hour meeting, but we don't necessarily go through it like we have been. But I'll just send it out to everybody. This is the draft, this is what it's gonna look like. And then
Without the colors?
without the colors, it's all gonna be the same. It's all gonna be the same. Everybody's gonna get the same thing. And then we're just gonna say, you know, where are your questions? And then we'll go through and we'll do the questions, and then whatever comes out of that is probably gonna go to the board. So we're looking at 2 more meetings minimum.
Are we having it more often than 1 month, do you think, or do you think that's
I-
what we're looking at? I'm fine
Well,
with it, I'm just wondering, just
With
It's a
planning.
holiday.
Christmas, with
It's
Christmas
holiday.
jamming everybody up, I was thinking like the middle, or the second week in January, we would do it on Wednesday. And then I could actually set it up for the Wednesday before, so it would be basically, I looked at my thing, it was 2 weeks. So if we did it the second week of January, that Wednesday, and then the next Wednesday, we finalize it, and then we present it on the board that next day. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
It's got my calendar.
So the 11th, second week of January?
Yes, and then it would be on the 18th, we would finalize it, and then on the 19th, it would be presented to the
Are
board.
we gonna keep meeting in this room is the plan?
It seems like this is, I have to confirm that with other folks.
That's the intention
And
at
it's,
this
and
point.
it's free, right? We don't have to pay for
That
this.
is the beauty of this, well, and I don't have to mop it when we're done.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, did you have to move?
I had to mop the last one, because they made me put my own money down, so I had to mop.
So just to clarify, Lee, what are these dates again? We're saying January.
So this is proposed, I'm proposing for the 11th at 10 to noon. And that would be oh, wait, sorry, I've gotten ahead of myself, I do that a lot. So we have a motion to include public comments for time available, limited to 3 minutes for folks. Are we good with that?
Yeah.
For our next meeting. Are you good with that, Amy? Okay. All right.
Tell me the date again.
So, I'm proposing January 11th, 10 to noon, here. And then again on January 18th, 10 to noon. And that is the assumption that on the 11th, we are finished, and on the 18th, we go through it just in general, and it may not be a 2-hour meeting, it may be a shorter meeting. But basically, my idea then is to show up with the policy as I've generated off of all of this stuff, and then we agree to forward that to the board. Is that acceptable?
Yeah.
I think we can do that,
Okay.
reasonable date.
All right. So, I guess, because we're like 5 minutes in.
Yeah, I motion that we adjourn.
I second.
I would like to thank you, folks. Who's been, who seconded?
I have my calendar up.
She did, I know.
I do, you go for it. Go for it.
And then do we all agree to adjourn?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Wait here.